Welcome to episode 30 of our third series on the surnames and early families of Appalachia and the American South. If you've watched the channel more than a few times, you will know that my approach to the topic is to couch the discussion in cultural themes, trivia, and geography as well as history. That helps us to appreciate the place that all of our families have in the story of humanity and Western civilization as well as America specifically. That's why I hope to honor those who gave us life and liberty. And I hope these episodes do just that. It's to them that I dedicate this series, and I hope you will join me in that dedication. We have some stuff to get into today, folks, quite a bit of stuff, so let's get to it. I hope you'll join me. Number one, Houghton, or Houghton. Simply put, these are variations of the same name derived from English words for hilltop estate or farmstead on a hill. Houghton with an A is the oldest spelling, so phonics worked for someone who spelled it with the O instead of an A. However, that doesn't mean that the families that wear the name proudly are of culturally English origins. In fact, in Ireland, for instance, some English Quakers settled there in the 16th and 17th centuries. That's long enough to be enculturated into the Irish culture. In Ireland also, or I should say though, it's often used as an anglicized form of, I'm not even going to try these, folks. Not even going to try them. Okay, well, anyway. Unfortunately, I didn't find either form, whether Gaelic or in standard American English, either form among the traditional names of Scotland or Wales. In addition to the South, Houghton has spread far and wide. There's a lovely little city in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan named Houghton. And I found records for the birth of a girl named Ann Houghton in Jamaica sometime in the 1740s. Perhaps the first person in America to be named Houghton is seen in the life of Richard Houghton, who was born in 1614 in England, but passed away in Wethersfield in the Connecticut colony around 1682. One of the earliest southern lines of Houghton was documented with the birth of Elijah Houghton in Fairfax County, Virginia in 1746. He married the lovely Sarah Jackson. Doesn't the name sound lovely? Sarah Jackson in 1782. They were the parents of at least 3 sons and 1 daughter. At the end of the day, or hour, if you prefer, I'm confident that Houghton is an antebellum family of English and possibly Irish origin. Number 2, Vann. I put off covering my own last name for 3.5 years, but after several viewers requested it, I bit the bullet and decided it was time to do the right thing and cover our name. First off, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, if I had $1 every time I heard someone say my name as Vaughn, I could buy a nice leather jacket to wear while riding my Triumph motorcycle. The same is true for the Dutch preposition Vann with 1 N. If that word was the basis for my family name, would it mean berry from or berry of? I don't know. Probably so, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I've also mentioned a few times on the show that simple names like mine could have multiple origins. There's a city in Brittany, France called Vann, where the E and the S are silent. Using the Manx Gaelic language that's spoken on the Isle of Man, it would mean of or from man. In fact, the Isle of Man's name in Gaelic is Ellen Vannin, which means the beautiful little Isle of Man. Now, of course, one wouldn't be called from man or of man until they left there, so you're not going to find the name amongst people living on the Isle of Man today. I think there's like 1 or 2 people, but they moved there from somewhere else. 2 meanings come from England and Scandinavia that probably share Norse origins. In England, it meant low-lying wet place, and in Norway, the home of the Norse Vikings, it means water. Despite some sources that claim that Chief James Vann's father was a Scottish trader, the name is now rare in the Bonny Land. It's primarily found in England and Wales. But here's where DNA suggests a deeper Irish and perhaps even Manx connection, because there's not a whole lot of difference in Manx and Ireland, to be honest with you. You might want to note this. DNA can help us, especially when there was hanky-panky in the old barn loft or corn crib. Here's what here's what family tree DNA tells me about my paternal line. You, that's me, and Ireland's O'Connor house share a common paternal line ancestor who lived around 1088 AD. The Connor family was one of the most distinguished and powerful royal houses in Ireland, ruling the kingdom of Connaught for centuries up until 1475. Looking closer to home, my Y chromosome has been matched to men who descend from some of the earliest Vann folk in the colonies. John Vann was born in Nansemond, Virginia around 1694. He died in Chowan County, North Carolina around 1752. A lot of Vanns, that's where the southern Vanns really kind of came into America from, was right up in there. Now, I've also found that there are some Olivers and Johnsons and a couple of other names, Brady's, that probably came from that same area. So one of us is the progenitor of Oliver lines, but I'm suspecting it was a Vann because I do have Vann connections through DNA that date back to probably around 1500 or 1600. So it's probably a Vann that did the womanizing. Absent any hanky-panky in the old corn crib, all Vanns in the South, including the Cherokee Vanns in Oklahoma, descend from John and Mary Vann, who were hitched in 1716. Both of their sons married Cherokee women. At the end of the day, Vann folk in the South comprise an antebellum family of Irish via England or Wales and Cherokee origin. Number 3, McAdams. I have to admit up front that when I received this request, the romantic side of me woke up. Some of you already know where I'm going with this one. The Southern author Nicholas Sparks, not to be confused with Nicolas Cage, wrote a book titled The Notebook. It was about finding and losing love only to find it again years later after separation for decades. The story is set near the coast in the Carolinas. The film stars Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams, hence the reason why we're talking about it now. Although both stars were born in Canada, they pulled off playing Southerners suffering from unrequited love rather well. The name McAdams means the son of Adam, and is found among the traditional names of Ireland and Scotland. In Ireland, it could well be from the anglicization of two Irish family names like McAden and in Armagh and McCaw in the county of Cavan, or County Cavan. I'll get it straight in a second here. In true Southern migration form, I found a line of McAdams folk that started from York County, Pennsylvania with the birth of John McAdams in 1707. It stretched to the Carolinas and on to Texas with the life of Joseph Irvin McAdams, born in 1791, died in 1866. I don't know the names of John the Patriarch's parents or the woman who stole his heart and shared his life. John and his better half moved from Pennsylvania, like the Boones, and settled in Orange County, North Carolina, where his grandson, Joseph Irvin, that we talked about just a second ago, and who moved on to Texas, was born. At the end of the day, I'm confident that McAdams is an antebellum family of Scottish or Irish origin. Number 4, Peden. I was happy to receive this request because it brought back memories of a Presbyterian leader who I wrote about in 2 of my books. His name was Reverend Alexander Peden. He was born in Ayrshire, Scotland around 1626. He was strongly against the intrusion of the monarchy into ecclesiastical or church and theological matters. The same impulses were and continue to be found in America, especially the Bible Belt. As with Puritan preacher Andrew Melville, who was also a principal of the University of Glasgow, my alma mater, for my doctoral program, my PhD, he believed that there are 2 kingdoms in which Christ is the monarch in the heavenly realm, and King James was the head of the earthly kingdom. But, alas, James was only a simple member of the Church or Kirk of Scotland. Since the Kirk was the body of Christ on earth, the monarch's job was to protect the Church from potential militant adversaries. But he was not to determine worship or liturgical practices. Nonetheless, Alexander Peden's family originated in what I call Ulster Scots land that forms an Irish Sea culture area on both sides of the North Channel of the Irish Sea. Peden, it's believed, is an alternate form of Patrick. In America, it's a quintessential Scotch-Irish or Scots-Irish family name. In Europe, it could be considered Ulster Scots. But at the end of the day, ethnic identity is a personal matter. Far be it from me or anyone else to tell you what identity you should embrace. In fact, the people in America who are most likely to identify with a plain old American identity are found in the South and are likely descended from pioneers who left the Irish Sea culture area in the 1600s and 1700s. As with other Irish and Scottish folk, members of the Peden family have spread far and wide. They've settled from England and Canada to South Africa and New Zealand, as well as the United States. One of the earliest lines of Peden that I could find in the South was started by David Peden, born in 1760, died in 1823. He was born in County Antrim in Northern Ireland, or Ulster if you prefer. He immigrated to Greenville, South Carolina, and settled into a largely Scots-Irish community. He married Eleanor Guggen, I don't know if that's right or not, I'll put the spelling up here, in 1786, but she passed away 20 years later in 1806, and barely a year after Eleanor's passing, the 47-year-old David Peden married Margaret Hughes. He and his wives produced at least 3 young'uns, and you might be interested in noting this. That community of Scots-Irish Presbyterians established Erskine College, which is still operating in the upstate of South Carolina, and Presbyterian College, which is also in the upstate of South Carolina. They're still operating. You might also recall from an earlier video that I did on Scots-Irish and the rise of education that the founding institutions from which the universities of Tennessee and Georgia grew were founded by the same community of Presbyterian ministers. It's amazing. You don't hear that much today on these campuses. Nope, it's all secular. Well, folks, that's about all I have for you today. If you'd like a free catalog of the surnames and families that we've covered thus far, write to me at vantagepoint22@gmail.com, and I'll send it to you as an attachment ASAP. Until I see you again, may the good Lord bless and keep you. May He make His face shine on you and give you peace. Bye-bye.